We're very proud to welcome combat veterans of Coleman Post 2214 and are pleased that they are joining us in our presentation of the colors tonight. I also want to welcome the members of the Coleman chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution and thank them as well for participating with us in our ceremony. Members and guests, the purpose of this service is to honor our country's flag, to celebrate the anniversary of its birth, and to recall the achievements attained beneath its folds. It is quite appropriate that such a service should be held by the Order of Elks, an organization that is distinctly American, intensely patriotic, and without counterpart.
Heraldry is as old as the human race. The carrying of banners has been a custom among all peoples in all ages. These banners usually contain some concept of the life or government of those who fashion them. The evolution of the American flag marks the progression of the government of the American people. From the founding of Jamestown in Virginia in 1607 until 1775, the flag of England was the flag of the people of America. Watch the star there. There you go. In 1775, the pine tree flag was adopted for all colonial vessels, and this was the banner carried by the Continental forces in the Battle of Bunker Hill. Our first flag bearer this evening is Smokey Ferguson, a member of the Coleman chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution. Smokey is dressed in the uniform of an officer in the Continental Line, and his patriot ancestor fought in the famous Battle of Cowpens in South Carolina toward the end of the Revolutionary War. Thank you, Smokey. Larry. Now Larry is wearing the militia uniform. Watch that star. That was most common in the Continental days in the Revolutionary Army. Nope, you're over one. Whoa, come over. There we go. There we go. The southern colonies from 1776 to 1777 used the snake flag. And our second flag bearer is local SAR chapter member Larry Howell, who is dressed in the militia uniform of the day. Larry's patriot ancestor was Travis Toone, a well-to-do farmer and patriot from Halifax County, Virginia. Travis kept local American units well fed and supplied throughout the war. Thank you, Larry. There's our World War II guys. There we go. Now, in the latter part of 1775, the Continental Congress appointed a committee to consider the question of a single flag for the 13 colonies, and that committee recommended a design of 13 alternate stripes of red and white with an azure field in the upper corner bearing the red cross of St. George and the white cross of St. Andrew. John Paul Jones, the senior lieutenant of the flagship Alfred, hoisted this flag to the masthead in December of 1775, and 1 month later it was raised over the headquarters of General Washington at Cambridge, Massachusetts, in compliment, as he wrote, to the United Colonies. This flag, called the Continental Colors in the Grand Union, was never carried in the field by the Continental Land Forces, but it was used by the Navy as its exclusive design and was the first American flag to receive a salute of honor a salute of 11 guns from Fort Orange in the Dutch West Indies. Our third flag this evening is being shared by World War II veterans. Okay, Julian, you can drop that. Thurman Ryan and Julian Campbell. Thurman served in the U.S. Navy in World War II aboard the battleship Wisconsin in the Pacific Theater. He and his ship rode out the typhoon at sea and were present at the invasion of the Philippines and the bloody Battle of Okinawa. Thurman will celebrate his, 92nd birthday, is that right? Thurman, 92nd, coming up? 92 coming up? Yeah, next week on June 18th, so next Monday he's celebrating his 92nd birthday. Now this young man on his left is Julian Campbell, and Julian piloted 40 B-26 bomber missions over the Mediterranean in World War II in support of the Allied invasions of Sicily and Italy. Toward the end of the war, he also flew transport missions in the war against Japan. He ended his Air Force career as a lieutenant colonel, flying combat missions in Vietnam. Julian is the eldest member of our Coleman VFW post at the age of 98. So much fun to do this every year. These guys are great. Robert Turner, if you'd come forward. In response to a general demand for a banner more representative of our country, the Congress on June 14, 1777 provided, quote, that the flag of the United States be 13 stripes of alternating red and white, and that the Union be 13 stars, white on a blue field, representing a new constellation. It is believed that on May or June of 1776, a committee consisting of George Washington, Robert Morris, and George Ross commissioned Betsy Ross, a Philadelphia Quakeress, to make a flag from a rough design they left with her. It is said that she suggested that the stars should have 5 points rather than 6. This starry banner was first flown at Fort Stanwix, called Fort Schuyler at the time, near the city of Rome, New York, in August of 1777, and was under fire 3 days later at the Battle of Oriskany during a British and Indian attack. The first official salute to the Stars and Stripes was given on February 14, 1778 by France on the French coast, when the Ranger, under the command of John Paul Jones, was saluted by the French fleet. This flag, then carried by the Ranger, was made by the young women of Portsmouth, New Hampshire, from stripes from their best-colored silk dresses and the white wedding gown of a recent bride. It is said that this Ranger's flag was flown by Jones' ship, the Bonhomme Richard, in its thrilling fight by moonlight upon the high seas with the British frigate Serapis. When the Serapis struck her colors, the immortal fame of John Paul Jones was ensured as the intrepid defender of the youthful republic. Thank you, Patrick. You can put it down now. Our fourth flag this evening is being carried in by Robert Turner. Robert graduated from Coleman High School, joined the Marine Corps, and served in Vietnam in 1966 and 1967. He was wounded in the hip when his tank hit a mine, and after recovering and returning to duty, he was wounded in the head and knee in a second mining incident, and he is the recipient of 2 Purple Hearts. Thank you, Robert. The original 13 Stars and Stripes represented the original 13 colonies, and in 1795, 2 additional Stars and Stripes were added to represent admission to the Union of Vermont and Kentucky. Under this banner of 15 Stars and Stripes was fought the War of 1812. It was the site of it flying over Fort McHenry on September 14, 1814, that inspired Francis Scott Key to write what was to become our national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner. Miss Margaret Young, who cut the stars for that particular banner, was the mother of Henry Sanderson, the Grand Exalted Ruler of the Order of the Elks. Our fifth flag this evening is carried in tonight by Bill Corwatch. Bill also served in Vietnam with the United States Marines in 1966 and 67. He was a platoon sergeant in the 4th Marine Regiment of the 3rd Marine Division. He was wounded by enemy artillery in June of 67, recuperated in the hospital in Vietnam, returned to duty, and was also wounded a second time that October. Bill is the recipient of 2 Purple Hearts. The Congress on April 14, 1818 adopted a resolution that on and after July 4th, the number of stripes should be 13 and that the blue shield should carry 1 star for each of the 20 states in the Union, and that a new star should be added for each state thereafter admitted. Our sixth flag this evening is being carried in by retired U.S. Army Major Robert Stevens, who served in Vietnam from 1965 to 1968. He flew helicopters with the 175th Aviation Company attached to the 1st Air Cav Division. Bob was also wounded in action and received a Purple Heart. Since 1818, there has been no change in the flag design except that 28 new stars were added before July 4th, 1912, and this flag of 48 stars flew over the nation for 47 years until just before the Vietnam War. Our seventh flag tonight is being carried in by Will Harris. Will played football at Coleman High School, graduated and went into the Army Special Forces. He was a Green Beret in Vietnam in 1971 and 72, and was also wounded in action, receiving the Purple Heart. He completed a full career in the Army, all in Special Forces, and retired as a Sergeant Major. This week, Will takes over as the new VFW commander for Coleman's VFW Post 2214. On July 4th, 1959, a star was added for Alaska, our first non-connected state, and a year later, Hawaii, our island state, added a 50th star. Our present flag, 50 stars and 13 stripes. And our final flag bearer this evening is Darrell Brewer. Darrell served with the U.S. Air Force in Desert Storm, and later in his career, he was the Aviation Armaments Manager at Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan in 2011. Darrell currently serves as one of our VA reps at the Coleman County Courthouse, assisting all our veterans with their many needs. Thank you all. At this time, we'll have our second patriotic song of the evening, Mr. Greg Burks.
Yeah.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with light from above, from the mountains to the bread.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated.